In this lesson, we're going to be covering the basics of Nahu and discuss the different types of a single word in Arabic. First, let's talk about Nahu. What is Nahu? What is the definition of Nahu? Nahu is that science which teaches us two things. Number one, it teaches us how to join a noun, verb, and particle to form a correct sentence. And number two, it teaches us what the i'rab or condition of the last letter of a word should be. Because in Arabic, last letters of words have conditions and they get harakat or diacritical marks based on their position in a sentence. So along with teaching you how to form that correct sentence in Arabic, Nahu also teaches you how to observe every word in its rightful position and put that harakah on its last letter in accordance with the position it's enjoying in that very sentence. So two objectives. Now, what is the subject matter of Nahu? What does Nahu revolve around? Now that we know what Nahu is, we can come to the conclusion that the main things we're going to talk about in Nahu, or the subject matter in Nahu, are words and sentences. That's all we're going to talk about in Nahu. And by the way, in Arabic, word is kalima and sentence is kalam. So these are the two things we're going to talk about throughout Nahu. Kalima and kalam. That's the subject matter of Nahu. Now let's move on to the purpose and objective behind studying Nahu. Obviously, the immediate objective of Nahu is to learn how to read, write, and speak Arabic correctly and to avoid making mistakes in reading or writing or understanding Arabic. So that's the immediate objective of Nahu. For example, if you have four words, let's say you have Zaid, Dar, Dakhala, and Fi. These are four words. What the science of Nahu does is it teaches us how to put them together to form a correct sentence. It teaches you what comes first, what comes after, what comes before. And so you get the sentence Dakhala Zaidun fi dari. So the science of Nahu teaches you how to put those words together to form a correct sentence. So anyways, that's the immediate objective. The midterm objective of Nahu is to use our Arabic skills to understand the Quran and Hadith and Fiqh and other Islamic sciences and books so that we can act upon them. Because once you learn Arabic, you get access to all of these different Islamic texts, most importantly, the Quran and Hadith. And obviously, the ultimate objective of studying Nahu through the above is to gain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make sure to keep these objectives in mind when studying Nahu. It will motivate you in the long term. Previously, we said that the subject matters of Nahu are words and sentences. So let's get started with the word or al-kalima. The first thing you need to know is that anything uttered by a human being in Arabic is called a lafz. Now, if that word has a meaning, it's called mawdu'. Mawdu' means meaningful. If it doesn't have a meaning, then it's called muhmal. Muhmal means meaningless. So those are the essential two types of lafz. Mawdu', which means meaningful word. Muhmal, which means meaningless word. Obviously, we're not going to sit here talking about muhmal or meaningless words, so we move on to mawdu', meaningful words. In Arabic, a mawdu' or a meaningful word has two types, mufrad and murakkab. Mufrad literally means alone or singular, because mufrad is a singular word which conveys one meaning. Mufrad is also known as kalima. The second type of mawdu' is called murakkab, which literally means compound. And this is because murakkab is basically a compound of words. It's a bunch or a group of words, whether they form a complete sentence or not. Now leave murakkab alone for right now. Let's focus on mufrad, otherwise known as kalima. As a matter of fact, let's just call it kalima. There are three types of kalima, meaning words. The first one is ism, which means noun. The second one is fi'l, which means verb. And the third one is harf, which means particle. So now let's understand what each one of these is. Let's start off with the first one, which is ism, which means noun. In Arabic, an ism or noun is a kalima whose meaning can be understood without the need to combine it with another word. Another thing which is particular about ism in Arabic is that it does not have any tense, meaning it doesn't denote anything that has to do with past, present, or future. And essentially, as we say it in English, a noun is basically the name of a person, place, or thing. Let's take some examples. For example, one of the nouns in Arabic is rajulun. Rajulun means man. Now if you notice, this word, the first point that to be noted here is that it is that kalima whose meaning can be understood without the need to combine it with another word. So you understand the meaning of rajulun, which is man, without the need to combine it with another word. The second thing that is noted down here is it does not have any tense. Obviously, when you say the word rajulun, which means man, you're not talking about, it doesn't have anything to do with past, present, or future. The third thing is it is the name of a person. Rajulun means man, which is the name of a person. Or let's take, for example, baytun. Baytun means house. Same thing here. In order to understand the word bayt, you do not need to combine it with another word. Also, it does not have any tense, and it is also the name of a place or thing. One more thing to be noted when talking about ism or noun is that a noun in Arabic can never have a tanween and an alif lam at the same time. So you can't say ar-rajulun and you can't say al-baytun. Either it's going to have a tanween or it's going to have an alif lam. Both of them can never go together. Now that we're done with explaining ism, noun, let's move on to fi'l, which is verb. Something which is common with ism and fi'l in Arabic is that fi'l is also a kalima whose meaning can be understood without the need to combine it with another word, just like in ism. Something which is not common with ism is that fi'l has one of the three tenses: past, present, or future. The last thing, which is basically the essential characteristics of a fi'l or a verb in Arabic, is that it denotes an action. Now let's take a verb in Arabic as an example and fit these notes on that particular word. For example, let's take the word nasara. Nasara means he hit. In this word, as you can see, this is a fi'l. The first thing to be noted down here is that it's a word whose meaning can be understood without the need to combine it with another word. You do not need to combine another word to understand the meaning of nasara. The second thing is it has one of the three tenses. When you say he hit, it's talking about the past. And the third thing is that it denotes an action, because over here nasara denotes the action of helping. Also, nasara means to help, not to hit. So that was my mistake. So nasara means he helped. And as said before, it denotes the action of helping. One more thing to be noted down here is that a fi'l can never have a tanween or an alif lam. It can have neither. So these are all the basic things you need to know about fi'l, verb. Now let's move on to the last type of kalima, which is harf, particle. A harf or a particle in Arabic is that kalima whose meaning cannot be understood without joining an ism or a fi'l or both to it. Meaning that if you want to get something out of a harf, you have to connect it with either an ism, or you need to connect it with fi'l, or you need to connect it with both of them, meaning an ism and a fi'l together. That's the only way you're going to get something, you're going to get a meaning out of that word. For example, let's take the example of ala. Or the example of min. So ala means on. Min means from. As you can see, these are words that don't really give you any meaning unless you add an additional ism or a fi'l or both to them. So that's what harf is. Now that we've understood what an ism is and what a fi'l is and what a harf is, meaning noun, verb, and particle, let's give you a few exercises. The first word here is jalasa, which is he sat. Now we know right away that this is a fi'l. Why? Because overall it denotes an action, which is the main characteristic of a fi'l, and also it has a tense, he sat. It's talking about the past, and it has a meaning that can be understood without the need to combine it with another word. The second is a harf, wa, and. This is something that cannot be understood unless by connecting with something else. It cannot give a proper meaning without being connected to something else. So we know right away that this is a harf. The third one is bintun, girl. Now this again is something that can be understood without the need to connect it with something else, but at the same time it does not have a tense. And it's the name of a person, place, or thing. Over here is the name of a person. So this is ism. And finally the fourth one is kasara, he broke. Again, this is fi'l for all the above mentioned reasons explained in jalasa, that it does not need another word to denote a meaning, and it denotes an action. Now that we've covered the basics of what an ism and a fi'l and a harf is, let's move on to explain some types of ism and fi'l and harf. Let's start off with the types of ism. Now ism has three main types. The first one is called jamid, which means a primary noun. A primary noun is basically an ism or a noun which is neither derived from another word nor is any other word derived from it. It's completely separate. It's a whole complete entity of its own. For example, you have the word bintun, which means girl. Or you have the word farasun, which means horse. Now these words, bintun and farasun, are not derived from any other word, nor is any other word derived from these words. So that's why they're both jamid. They're both primary nouns. The second type of ism is a masdar, which is a root noun. A root noun is an ism from which many other words are derived. It's the root of other derivatives. For example, let's take the words nasrun, nasrun, or the word darbun. Nasrun means to help, and darbun means to hit. Now these words are masdars. They are root nouns because they have many derivatives. For example, nasr has the derivative nasara, he hit. Yansuru, nasara, he helped. Yansuru, he is helping. Nasirun, helper. And darbun as well also has other derivatives. For example, daraba, he hit. Yadribu, he is hitting or will hit. Daribun, helper or hitter. So these are different derivatives. They're all derived from these two root words, nasrun and darbun. That's why they're known as root nouns, masdars. The third type is mushtaq, derived noun. A mushtaq is an ism which is derived from a masdar. For example, you have the word daribun. Now when we were explaining the masdar, which is the second type, one of the words that we gave an example was darbun. Darbun was a root word, and daribun, which means helper, is actually a derivative of that root word. Similarly, if you take another example, for example, let's take mansurun. Mansurun. This means the one who is helped. Mansurun is a derivative of the root word nasrun. So any noun which is a derivative, which is derived, is known as mushtaq. So these are the three types of ism. Jamid, which is primary noun. It is neither derived from anything nor is anything else derived from it. The second is masdar, root noun, which is an ism from which other words are derived. And the third one is a mushtaq, which is a derived noun, meaning it is an ism which is derived from a masdar. Now let's move on to the types of fi'l, verb. Fi'l, or verb in Arabic, has four main types. The first one is al-madi, past tense verb. For example, daraba means he hit. So that's an example of a past tense verb. The second type is al-mudari', which means present and future tense verb. For example, the word يضرب means he is hitting or will hit. So since it denotes the action of hitting taking place either in the present or in the future, that's why it is al-mudari', the present or future tense verb. The third type of fi'l is al-amr, which means a positive command or an imperative command. For example, the word idrib means hit. So that is a positive command. And likewise, the fourth type of fi'l is the opposite of the third one, which is an-nahi, negative command. You could also call it a prohibitive command. An example of an-nahi would be the exact opposite of idrib, which is la tadrib. La tadrib, which means don't hit, do not hit. So these are the four types of fi'l. Al-madi, past tense verb. Al-mudari', present / future tense verb. Al-amr, positive command. And an-nahi, negative command. Now let's move on to the types of particles, and this is going to be the last part of the lesson. Aqsamul harf, the types of particles. Harf only has two types, amil and ghayrul amil. The first one is amil, which means a causative particle. Al-harful amil is basically a harf which causes i'rab change in the word after it, meaning it governs the word after it. It's able to influence the word after it. For example, if you take the particle, the harf fi, which means in, that's one of the huruf that is known as al-huruful jarra, prepositions. And prepositions in Arabic, specifically al-huruful jarra, give jar or a kasrah to the word that comes after it. For example, if we take the example Zaydun fil masjid, we can see that the word that is coming after fi is al-masjid. Fi actually governs the word that comes after it, which in this case is al-masjid, by giving the masjid's last letter, dal, a kasrah. So Zaydun fil masjidi. So that's an example of a harf which causes i'rab change in the word after it. The second type of harf is ghayrul amil, non-causative. This is the type of harf which does not cause i'rab change in the word after it. For example, if we take the examples thumma or the example wa, these are both huruf, they're both harfs, they're particles, but they are not particles that cause i'rab change in the words that come after them. So that's why they are ghayrul amil, non-causative particles. So these are the two types of harf, amil, causative particle, and ghayrul amil, non-causative particle. Now let's give you a brief overview of what we covered today. The first thing we learned is that any word uttered by a human being is lafz. Then we learned that lafz has two types. Either it is muhmal, which means meaningless, or mawdu', which means meaningful. Then we jumped on to mawdu'. We skipped muhmal because it doesn't really make any sense to talk about something that is meaningless. And then we found out that mawdu' also has two types, mufrad and murakkab. And then we jumped on to mufrad. We skipped murakkab for now. We're going to cover murakkab in the next lesson. For now, let's stick to mufrad. Mufrad had three types. The first one was ism, the second was fi'l, and the third one was harf. And then each of these had their own subcategories. The first type of ism was jamid, which is basically a primary noun. No noun is derived from it, neither is it derived from another noun. The second was masdar, a root noun. And the third one was mushtaq, which is basically a noun that is derived from a masdar. When we jumped to fi'l, we found out that fi'l also has four types. The first one is al-madi, the second is al-mudari', then comes al-amr, and finally we have an-nahi. Past tense verb, present and future tense verb, command, and prohibitive command. And then harf also had two types. The first was al-amil. The second one was غير العامل, causative particle and non-causative particle. So this is basically a brief sketch of what we covered today. Now, to end the lesson, let's just focus on a few examples as exercises. Let's start with the first exercise. فتح خالد الشباك. This means Khalid opened the door, or actually the window. Now here, let's analyze the words and the types of words that are used here. The first word here is fataha. Fataha, he opened. Now this denotes an action, so we know that this is a fi'l. Khalidun is the name of a person, so that is an ism. Likewise, ash-shubbak is also the name of a thing, so therefore it is also an ism. Now what types of fi'ls or isms are these? Fataha comes from the root word fathun, which is a masdar. So we know that this is a mushtaq, or a derivative of another root word, masdar. Khalidun, well actually that applies to the word khalidun, because mushtaq is a category of ism, not of fi'l. And to help, Khalid is derived from the word khaldun. So that's why it's a mushtaq word. Fataha, now let's go back to the fi'l. Fataha is actually a fi'l, and the type of fi'l it is al-madi, because it's talking about past tense, opened. Now let's move on to the last word, which is ash-shubbak. Ash-shubbak is an ism, and it's a primary noun, meaning it's a jamid, because it's not derived from any word, nor is any other word derived from it. So there you go, that's the first sentence. Now let's take another example. Yad rusu Ahmadu fil madrasati. That kind of got congested in there, but we can work with it. This means Ahmad studies in the madrasa, or you could call it the school. Here the first word here is yadrusu, which is a fi'l. And since it says studies, which is present tense, so therefore it is al-mudari'. The second word is Ahmadu, which is an ism, because it's the name of a person. And likewise, the category of ism that it enjoys is mushtaq. And the reason it is mushtaq is because it's derived from the word hamdun, which means to praise. Ahmad means the most praiseworthy. Next we have fi. Fi is a particle, it's a harf. And it is a'amil harf, meaning a causative particle. So that's why you put a'amil. It's actually supposed to be al-amil, but you could also say amil without the alif lam. And finally, the last one is al-madrasa. Al-madrasa again is ism, and it comes from the root word darasa, which means it's a derivative and it's a mushtaq. So there you have it. That's the second example. Try to take an Arabic book and identify the words so you get a hang of these terminologies, meaning ism, fi'l, harf, and whether it is جامد, مصدر, mushtaq, ماضي, مضارع, أمر, nahi, or عامل and غير العامل. So whatever it is, if you want to get a hang of these terminologies, you'll have to identify other words in Arabic books. And that's pretty much it for this video. See you in the next one.